I guess technically we would be available for bibliography now.
Fuck.
Aura, get on that.
Right? Okay, make us respectable, Aura. Alright, welcome back to Girls Talk Comics. This is the Master of Mediocrity, Erin, with her co-host,
the Lieutenant of Literature, Jessica.
Yeah, today we are talking about Maneaters, an Image comic written by Chelsea Cain and drawn by Kate Niemczyk. I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce that last name, and I didn't practice. My bad. Very unprofessional of me.
I mean, names are hard. News media get it wrong too, don't feel bad.
Fair. So, Maneaters Volume 1 is what we're going to talk about today. And Volume 1, I believe, covers issues 1 through 4 of the Maneaters series. And just a little bit about Maneaters. Image Comics and the creative team describe this series as Handmaid's Tale meets Cat People. It's fantastically tongue-in-cheek. Readers are following a prepubescent girl named Maud as she struggles with puberty and the pervasive sexism through her world. This book comes with tips from about bikini waxes to messages about protecting boys from stray estrogen in the environment, and provides a wild perspective into navigating the jungle of Maud's life. So,
yes.
Why did we pick this comic?
I have no idea. This was my first go-through with this particular property.
Yeah?
It was fun, though. I think I know why you picked it.
Yeah. We're going to go right into that. A little bit about this comic, though. So Chelsea Cain wrote Mockingbird. Mockingbird was also drawn by Kate Niemczyk. It's a Polish last name, spelled Niemczyk. Mockingbird had this really infamous cover where it had the character in a shirt that said, "Ask me about my feminist agenda." And Chelsea Cain and Kate apparently got lit up about this. And so Maneaters is her kind of response.
I gotta say, though, if you open up this book, it is just gloriously tactile. I even have been reading this on an app, and it's like a zine. It's like a fun 21st century zine that does all of those fun kind of zany, just breaking down of regular comic strip format. So this has been fun, and I love the fact that Cain and Niemczyk brought 3 girls that have to be under the age of 15 in on this, and put their poems in it, and my heart.
It's a fantastic book. I fell in love with its pitch.
Yes.
Immediately, but when the first issue came out, because I am reading the singles for it, it was covered in glitter and had that Fight the Power fist poster going on, but it's actually a cat paw. And fantastic. And it was just all glittered. And I was like, this is the best ostentatious, hilarious cover I have ever seen. And I've loved it ever since.
I actually just went over and peeked at the single issues on the oh god, what are those called? Racks? Rack. And they actually have special covers on some of them that are more cardboardy. I'm like, oh, this would have been one to get in the single issues. This really would have been.
So skipping ahead a little bit on this one, the single issues are definitely, I think, what we're recommending for reading it, just because the covers are great. They're glossy. They have, again, that different texture. They have a really diverse array of covers. One of the later covers is actually this peace sign, but the fingers are covered in blood. And so it's just very, really kind of intense.
Well, and back to the zine thing, it has, you could cut posters out of this son of a bitch. I'm not even, they're going for the full immersion experience with this.
Yep. And
I think the way that they did it artistically makes it more effective. Yes, they are tongue-in-cheek, but they're using almost their format to bring home the actual message more so than the content of the individual panels.
It's really great satire.
Yes.
It's actually punching up rather than punching down in what it's making fun of. And that imagery, again, really does kind of push home the point that a lot of the messages that we're sending to women and young girls and young boys and about just kind of very natural phenomenon is really just bizarre. And I really love their fake ads throughout the book.
Yes.
Making, just spreading this fear, this campaign against estrogen and the presence of it. Like, there's estro pop. There's, estrogen hand sanitizer so you can cleanse yourself from estrogen in the atmosphere. Like, that's not how that works.
There is an OxyClean style Estro Clean spray.
Yeah. Like, what is that? It's all advertised to protect your boys.
And it's right there, funny. Merged in with things. But they do the normal comic book things where they'll have 2-page spreads and breakthrough panels with their bubbles and with, direction of action. But then they have things during the school scenes where they're introducing you to the way women are taught puberty in this world. It's on the background of a desk, so it kind of pulls you into this is not so far from what it is now.
Kate does an amazing job. I actually looked up some of her art that she does outside of this. She's done some work for Blizzard with an Overwatch comic. Her artwork is just, I'm not saying this for the content she does, because she does rather modest and rather just, a full spectrum of content, but it's the sexiest artwork I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing marker work, just amazing line work. I actually thought about messaging her and being like, can you just, can I commission you for a Maneaters poster? Can you... I'll pay you specifically for some,
I was about positive you were going to say, can you adopt me?
Oh, yeah. Can I just follow you around and fawn over you?
Can you just...
Right? But Chelsea's writing, I think, is really great.
It twines together in a very... It's like a full-service comic book. It's giving you in-world artifacts. It's giving you sort of what we know today is the snippy, it's how everybody wants to sound in their own head. It's sort of witty and snippy and sarcastic.
Perfect timing on the comebacks.
Yeah, and the background, you see all of the teenage girls who are in handcuffs have feminist slogans on their t-shirt. Yep. They really do a good job of sort of dividing the line down by sex in this entire book without cheapening any of the characters in it.
Or even cheapening the message. Yeah. I mean, they have some articles that I'm assuming Chelsea probably wrote as the writer, where it's men complaining or talking about the sudden cat attacks and how everything seemed fine, and then all of a sudden she snapped, which are conversations that I've certainly heard from men in my life about it was fine, and then all of a sudden she was upset.
Or literally snapped is the name of a show about women who kill their husbands.
Right. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't.
And they make women, they definitely lean heavy on something that I hear about all the time and embrace a little bit because I am a cat person, but women are seen as being more feline in nature and more dangerous in that comparison. And the magazine articles in here are almost impossible to figure out if they're actually talking about cats or if they're talking about the women. And a lot of them are dual purpose magazine articles. And things like that just gave me shivers when I was reading it. It was amazing.
Definitely. I also thought that was kind of hilarious. It's part of my advertising for people. When I'm trying to sell this to new readers, it's these articles are going to entertain you more than anything. And I think, so they have one of the issues where it's a fake magazine. I think it's part of the first 4.
I think it's the 4th.
Awesome. When the premise was first introduced, some of my coworkers kind of balked at the idea. They're like, why would you make a fake magazine? That seems kind of like a waste of an issue. They read it. I read it first. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. When they finally told me that they got around to reading it, they all loved that issue because it was a really ingenious way to build the world and kind of talk more about the prejudice that kind of permeates it all.
Systemic.
But
sexism.
It's easy to talk about sexism for it. We haven't talked about what the actual hook is.
The hook?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. We haven't told people that the teenagers turn into cats sometimes and kill people.
Yeah.
We're talking about dangerous females. They're physically actually dangerous in this sometimes.
Yep.
As in literally eat people in like panther-sized were shapes.
Yep.
So women are given hormones in the water to get through their teenage years without menstruation until they're young women. So then, like, I guess in world, people don't start having kids until their early 30s, which, I mean, reads sort of like modern.
Yeah.
But it's that initial... The younger you are when you menstruate, the more likely you are to become a were. And that is what that estropop is that we mentioned earlier. It is specifically water for boys that does not have the... Like
the progesterone
in it,
yeah.
Which is not... I mean, let me just tell you, as somebody who's been under the influence of those drugs for most of my life, they're not good for you to have that in your water, and it's almost impossible to get out. So we're actually looking at sort of a dystopian nightmare here.
Yep.
And they're not talking about it, but maybe later issues will talk about how hard it is on the older women's bodies, having all of that shoved down their throats.
Yeah.
Way past their cycle.
Yeah.
Because it's not good for you.
No. I'm a little further ahead, so like I'm not gonna...
Spoiler alert.
I'll just say it's going to get real exciting.
But before we get too far away from it, that magazine issue is something I've seen Image do over and over again, because Wicked and Divine has a magazine issue as well. It's not as early. It's kind of surprising that they did it so early in the series, but I think it's kind of part of this style. This is not the only one that I've seen that has this sort of graphic mad zine gone wild effect where they give you a bunch of those in-world artifacts. Wicked and Divine does it. I'm sure there are more, but that's the one that comes immediately to mind. And
I respect Image for doing things differently. I mean, that's what drove me to them in the first place.
I think it strokes a little bit of because so much of comics is tied directly to pop culture jokes and references, especially with the MCU being the way it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it strokes the pop culture monster in all of us whenever they do things like that.
Yep. So I do want to talk about a little bit of how people reacted to this.
Okay.
Because I looked into that.
Okay.
Because I read the comments.
Oh, no.
People did not get this. Mostly male readers. They did not understand this book. They did not like this book. Because, I mean, it's not for male readers.
No, it's not.
There are obviously men. All my coworkers are male. They have all enjoyed it. They all think it's hilarious because they all think that a lot of the pervasive sexism that I experience is just dumb and a waste of time. So they enjoy this book for making fun of that, and the people who care a little bit more.
I would probably bet that they think it's a little bit over the top, though, don't they? Read it as a little bit extreme.
None of them have told me that to my face.
I would almost be baiting them at this point, trying to get them to admit that they think that it's an overreaction.
Yep. I do want to talk about the most exaggerated response that I've seen about it. Apparently people have stabbed copies of this book. Like, they've bought it, recorded it. They call it social justice warrior rage. Frankly, those reactions make it more entertaining for me.
I feel like they've done this before where they've burnt books. Like Ms. Marvel, did they burn some Ms. Marvel copies?
Probably, but thanks for helping it get so many reprints.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
That triggers more printing, you a-holes.
Just as a note for the prejudiced out there, keep buying stuff and burning it. Really hurts our numbers.
That is funny, though, that they literally stabbed the book.
Yeah,
because that's not reading as hostile at all toward women.
No.
That's totally not enforcing the argument that is within the book at all.
Yeah, which is why it's so freaking funny. But yeah, to kind of get back, I guess, we do recommend reading it in singles.
Right.
I, 10 out of 10 recommend this book. Are you?
Yes, I would be a solid 10 out of 10, at least for the first bit of it. I mean, I like the premise a lot, and I believe that the writing staff who have been working on this would continue to do it well, but the only thing that I worry about sometimes with these beautiful, amazing pieces of art is it sustainable?
That's actually fair. As someone who's read it a little further than you, I actually have some kind of questions about how are they going to reconcile some of the subplot with the overarching plot. And a lot of the, there's some heavy implication of what I think are monstrous deeds happening in the series, and I don't really know how they're going to tie it all together. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm going to give it a shot.
But it's good so far.
Yeah, I think the art style and Chelsea Cain's writing are going to be too, like, I don't think they're going to pair up with the, like, really nefarious ending that I'm scared of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that doesn't read on like, brand.
Yeah, tonal differences. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Well. But definitely recommend picking this up at your local comic shop. And if they don't have it, you should demand that they order it. And if they refuse to order it, find another comic shop.
Also comment that shit online. And and just before I forget to say this, to those who are maybe knocking on middle age like I am, this book made me fully realize that I am no longer a teenage girl, but I'm still not an old ginger trader like some of the moms in this. So, like, hope for us millennials who are no longer technically teenagers.
And it also still getting those messages that our teenage girls are getting.
Yeah, it does. I think the most impressive thing to me is not so much that they nailed the female thing, because I think it's an all-female writing cast, so that's not hard for them. But the thing that really impressed me was how realistic the teenagerness of it felt. It wasn't like a 20-something in teenage clothes.
Yeah.
These kids were talking about things that I've had young cousins talking about.
Yeah.
It turns out the youngins really, really like that YouTube culture, like a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, so I felt a little bit more hip reading these than I did whenever I started.
Okay, so that's another tip. Pick it up so you can feel culturally relevant and young.
Yeah, because, that youth thing is really important for women.
Oh, God, that's going to be an issue now. Tweak Chelsea Cain and be like, what's up? Make us feel old.
Like, give us that old lady comic book we all really want.
I would love that. We need that.
Afghans and cats, bitches.
Ooh.
Can that be the title of this podcast?
Yeah. Season 2. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. Pick this up in your local comic shop. Pick up the trade, definitely. And the second trade, I think, is coming out soon. Y'all enjoy. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Fucking badass. Oh, that's awesome.